Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to discuss about a beautiful philosophy of education that is idealism. Our previous video was on naturalism, so we'll find that certain values are really conflicting to that of the previous one, that is naturalism. But idealism has its own beauty, so let us straightly go into the topic. We know that idealism is one of the oldest philosophy of the nursing education or even in general education. Actually, the word ideal is derived from a Greek word, "eiden," which means to see. Okay, so what is the meaning of the word idealism? It is to see. Okay, and the father of the idealism is Plato, but there are many other philosophers who belong to this group of idealism, like Tagore, Dayanand, Froebel. All these people were supporting the philosophy of idealism. So, what is that key point in this slide? It is derived from the Greek word "eiden," which means to see. Now, coming on to the belief of idealism. What does idealism believe in? They believe that man is a combination of material and spiritual aspect. But when these two aspects are there, which is the most important one? The spiritual aspect. Okay. So one human being is made up of both material as well as spiritual aspect. But which one is greater? Spiritual aspect. So this philosophy believes that the spiritual aspect is more real and more important. So automatically, as a consequence, they give more importance to mind, self. We may hear certain words like soul. All those things are the most important things in idealism, and very less importance is given to the body and matter. So let me tell the key point in this slide. Man is made up of two aspects, material and spiritual, which is having a greater importance in idealism, spiritual aspect. Now, the other beliefs are that individual experience is valid than material world. So, these philosophers they give importance to the experience of an individual, the value of an individual, the spirituality of an individual, rather than the universe, the matter, or the material world. And they believe that man live in a world of ideas rather than fact, which means they give more importance that the child is very creative to think, to grow, okay, to solve a problem. Okay, all those things are the belief of idealism. And they, again, they believe that the purpose of life is to discover the ultimate truth. And what is that ultimate truth? Actually, to discover God, to discover that universal mind. That is what these people they believe, that the main purpose of life is to know the ultimate truth. And man is a spiritual being, and it is a man is considered to be the most beautiful creation of God, the most superior creation which was created by God. So, what do we understand from these two slides? We understand that spiritual aspect is given more importance, values, ideals, mind, self, soul, all these things are the most important words in idealism. What is given less importance? The material world, the matter, what is the fact, all those things, that scientific thing, all those things are given less importance, and they believe in God. Okay, and the goal of learning in idealism is to transfer a natural man into an ideal man. What do you mean by an ideal man? There should be perfection in physically, intellectually, emotionally, morally, and spiritually. See, usually we say, who is an ideal individual? Okay, an ideal person. An ideal person is someone who is so perfect in all the aspects, physically, psychologically, socially, morally, ethically, spiritually, all those things. So, that is the goal of learning in idealism, to transform an ordinary man into an ideal man, and to inculcate and to utilize certain values. These values are moral values or cultural values along with spiritual values in order to control the physical environment. So, what is the goal of learning? Number one, goal of learning is to convert or to transform a natural man into an ideal man. What is the second goal of learning in idealism? To inculcate certain values within this individual. What are the various values? We have moral values, cultural values, spiritual values. The next is the principles of idealism. So idealism, we have few principles, so which is actually making clear what is idealism. Okay, so what are the principles of idealism? They believe in the presence of universal mind. They believe that there is a mind behind this universe. Who is that? That is God. They believe in the spiritual power, or they believe in the the universal mind, who is none other than God Almighty. And these people, they believe that God is the origin of knowledge and God is the origin of human life. Okay, so the human life was evolved from God, and the ultimate aim of living is what? To realize oneself, to realize God, to realize God, to put our life, or to that end point is to understand the creator of the universe, that is to realize God. And even today this principle holds true. Even today there are people who believe in the supreme or the divine power of the Lord Almighty, and if that particular school of thought, that particular group of people belong to the idealism category. So what is the principles of idealism? Number one, presence of universal mind. Who is the universal mind? God. And what do they believe about God? They believe God is a creator of the universe. Every knowledge comes from God. Ultimate reality or ultimate aim is to realize who is God. And even today, this principle holds true. Number two, the second principle of idealism is they believe that man is a spiritual being. So they don't believe that man is a materialistic person. They believe that man is a spiritual being. So spiritual nature is the essence of his existence and makes him distinct from other creations. We know there are a lot of other creations like animals, birds, plants, etc. But what makes distinct a human being from all the other creations? They believe that it is the essence of spirituality which is laid inside a man. Okay, so that is why they believe that man is a spiritual being, and that is the point which makes that person different from all the other creation. So man is a spiritual being. Number three, the world of ideas, the world of values are superior than materialistic world. See, again and again we are listening to the same point, that values are more important than materialistic world. Ideas are more important than materialism. So they believe that higher values have a prior existence, and these higher values are coming from God Almighty, and the aim is to realize the higher values. So what are the values they are trying to tell? Just in previous slide we said that moral value, cultural value, spiritual value, but they make it very clear. Plato made it very clear that it is truth, goodness, glory and beauty. Okay, which means to realize that, to realize the importance of truth, to realize the importance of doing good to others, to realize the importance of admiring that glory and beauty. All these are the values which idealists hold at a very high level. And again, they argue that these values are coming from God, and you can understand these values only through realization of God. See, one key point which should come to a student's mind when you think about idealism is, idealism is close to spirituality. These people, they believe in the existence of God. They say that everything is come from God, and the ultimate aim is to end with God, right? So that is, they give more importance to ideas, they give more importance to values rather than consumerism or materialism. Number four, the real knowledge is perceived in mind. So they say that whatever we see outside is not real. Whatever is conceived in the mind, that is considered to be more real. So which means they give importance to creativity. They believe that knowledge acquired through activity and creativity is more important than knowledge obtained through senses. Do you remember in the last philosophy, naturalism, we studied that they believe that the child learns through senses, but idealists are opposing that. They're saying that it is not through senses, it is through the mind a child is learning, through activity, through creativity. That is how a child learns. And they are against mugging up of bookish knowledge. So they don't want a child to by heart everything, to mug up all the bookish language. No, they are against it. But they believe in creative thinking and skill development. So I hope you're getting an idea about what is the idealist talking about. So they say that the real knowledge is already perceived in the mind. It is creativity, it is problem solving, it is imagination, which is more important. It is not whatever you see around the world is more important. Then, so these are the four principles of idealism. So we understand that they believe in spirituality, they give more importance to values, they believe that man is a spiritual being, and that is what is making him distinct from all the other creations. And they believe in more of thinking, creativity, activity, problem solving, rather than whatever is seen as fact. Right? Shall we go to the next one? Aim of education according to idealism. What are the aims of education? So already we have, what to say, we have come across these points. Number one is self-realization. To assist a child to identify one's innate potential to the maximum. So what is the aim of education? Self-realization. A child has to understand what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses. Maybe it is a hidden talent. The child doesn't know what is he, what is the strength of him, but a teacher will be able to identify what is that hidden talent of a particular child, and then to nurture it, and to identify it, and then to nurture that innate potential. All of us have our own innate potential, to identify and to nurture it. So that is actually self realization. So once you identify what is your potential, what are your strengths, you will find a place to settle, you will find a place to flourish in the world. If you're very good in cooking, maybe you take up home science, you take up a subject in nutrition, maybe you will be a wonderful nutrition expert to the world. So that is self realization. So what are the aims of education? Number one, self realization, helping a child to understand one's strength, understand one's weakness, and then to nurture it so that this child is going to have a flourishing life in the world. Self realization. Number two, exaltation of personality through self realization. So once I understand what is my strength, once I understand what is my weakness, I can exalt my personality based on that. So, and again, idealists put it very carefully, to build a healthy personality which is very adjusting to the immediate surroundings, which means idealist says that a person should be flexible based on that. Healthy personality is something which adjusts to the surroundings. Okay, so that is what they say, to build a healthy personality which is very adjusting to immediate surroundings. So how am I knowing and growing a healthy personality? Through self realization. Number three, universal education. Idealists believe that the society needs to be educated irrespective of caste, creed, color, and social status. See, I want you to think back and go back to the days. I said that idealism is a very old philosophy. So maybe like even people when there were a lot of sages, say for example in India, okay, that was the time when idealism was coming up, where everything was given importance to spirituality. But even in those days, they believed that, what did they believe? They believed that everybody should have education. It is not only the upper caste people, or only this creed of people, or only this gender of people should have education. They believed it should be an universal education. Everybody should be educated, irrespective of caste, creed, color, and social status. Number four, development of inventive and creative powers. So a child should be molded in such a way so that his creative skills are getting opened up. A child should be supported in such a way so that his inventive skills are being molded up. Okay, which means you try to bring out that creativity in a child, bring out that inventory power or discovery nature of a child. So these are the aims of education. And the fifth one is conservation, promotion, and transmission of cultural heritage. See, this is one philosophy which says that you have to conserve your culture, you have to promote your culture, and you have to transmit the culture to ages. Okay, that it should go forward. So the child should be made aware, and the child should be proud about one's culture. We know that certain cultural groups are, reducing in number, but every one of us, we should be proud of our own culture. That is what idealists say. We should be aware, okay, these are my cultural practices. I should be able to understand it, appreciate it, and be proud of it. And then the child should be helped to contribute something to culture. Say, for example, even in a fancy dress competition, we find children wearing different costumes and coming for cultural competitions. That is maybe according to the state, according to the religion, according to the caste or creed or whatsoever. So that particular culture should be promoted. That is idealism. Bringing out or enrichment of cultural environment. It is not only to be proud of, it is not only to be aware of, but to celebrate it, to preserve it, and then to enrich that cultural values in an environment. So the last one is development of moral sense. Okay, moral sense, already we know that these people are giving more importance to values. So idealism believes that the teacher should help in such a way that the child is able to admire the three things: truth, goodness, and beauty. The truth, goodness, and beauty is something which was advocated by the philosopher Plato. So that is why we find that in most of the schools, we find that in curriculum, there is a subject called as moral science. Because I think most of our Indian schools, okay, except for few, most of them, we are still following that concept of idealism, where we try to promote culture, where we try to promote self realization, where we try to explore the hidden nature of a child, bring out the strength of a child, help the child to think creatively, innovatively, okay, and then to develop certain moral values. That is, to we always appreciate children who talk truth, who are going to be very honest in their activities. So that is actually promotion of idealism. Okay, and one more aim of education is cultivation of spiritual values. So, moral values and spiritual values go hand in hand. Spiritual values, they believe, are eternal values, they are unchanging values, and they are considered as fundamental values. The child is taught to lead a spiritual life that will help one to respect the spiritual worth and dignity of other people. So, which means that spiritual values is something considered to be very high according to idealists. So, what they are telling us, these values are very important, they are very pure, and once I understand what is my spiritual values, I will be able to respect and provide respect to another person, yeah, with another spiritual value. Okay, that is the background of idealism, which says that we have to lead a spiritual life that will help one to respect the spiritual worth, to respect the dignity of other people. Okay, so overall, what we find is idealism is a philosophy where you can find everything as ideal. Okay, what you really expect, in the ideal child, what you really expect in an ideal personality, that exactly is what we see in idealism. Giving respect, having moral values, having certain spiritual values, respecting or giving dignity to the another fellow being, promoting one's culture, being proud of one's culture, realizing what are the potentials, one's own potentials, and trying to have a healthy personality of having adjustments to the changing surroundings. All these things are the aim of education according to idealism. I hope you're getting an idea what is idealism. Idealism is, see, the key word what you should remember is idealism. Fine. It is coming from idle. The meaning is to see. What is the main thing they are promoting? Spirituality. What is the main thing they are promoting? Self realization. And then realization of the universal mind. What else are they talking about? They're talking about having values, okay, moral values, spiritual values, cultural values. That's all these things are coming under this philosophy of idealism. Okay, next is the curriculum. Okay, I told you already that most of our schools and colleges are functioning with this philosophy in mind, idealism. Okay, so what are the curriculum, what are the subjects they study? Usually, children study poetry, fine arts, even religion in order for them to develop a moral development, aesthetic development. Especially, there are certain subjects like moral science, which is included in school subjects, which teaches the children about the very good values, say about honesty, about punctuality, about helping each other, about sacrificing, etc. So, that is all helping them to develop morally. Okay, maybe poetry, fine arts, etc., for aesthetic development. Then we have subjects like language, science, mathematics, geography. All those things are helping us to grow intellectually, and of course physical education for physical development. So they have a tight curriculum, they have all subjects. It's not like naturalistic people where they don't have any curriculum. Here there is a timetable, there is a schedule, there are certain books to grow intellectually, to grow aesthetically, to grow morally, to grow physically. So that is about curriculum. Next is method of teaching. We all are familiar with method of teaching, especially students in India. We all are familiar with the method of teaching. That is, number one is we have to have self realization. So there should be certain hours like self education. That was advocated by a famous philosopher, idealistic philosopher, Pestalozzi. Then the most popular philosopher, Froebel, he introduced this concept of kindergarten. What is the meaning of the word kindergarten? The school is considered to be a garden, and who is the gardener? The teachers are considered to be the gardeners. And who are the students? The tender plants which needs some support, which needs some guidance to grow. So those are the students. Okay, so kindergarten was advocated by Froebel, where he considered school as a garden, teacher as a gardener. The school students are tender plants who are growing for beauty, for perfection. Then the method of teaching is teaching is like questioning, discussion, lecture. Lecture come discussion, questioning, all those things will come. Other than that, project, imitation. Imitation is, say for example, a teacher is teaching something in school and the child is imitating the same way how a teacher is teaching. So all those things are the method of teaching in idealism. So main thing I can say is lecture, discussion, questioning method, then maybe projects, imitation method, then small children, kindergarten, self-realization, self-education, etc. Next is discipline. Do we have discipline in idealism? Yes, we do have discipline. Why? Because in order to attain self realization, these people believe that strict discipline is essential. Strict discipline by teachers are essential in order to help the child to realize, okay, this is right. That is why madam appreciated me. Oh, maybe this is wrong. I should never repeat it. That is why she gave me a spank, or say she scolded me. Okay, like you try to understand that concept, no? So self realization, idealists believe it comes only through strict discipline by a teacher. You remember naturalism? Free discipline. No discipline at all in naturalism. Just opposite is idealism, because they believe that only a disciplined mind can attain the highest value of life. What is that highest value? Truth, goodness, and beauty. So if you want to know the truth, if you want to know the goodness, if you want to appreciate the beauty, what should be there? A disciplined mind. And so they believe in strict discipline. Next is teacher. What is the role of a teacher in idealism? Teacher has a very high place in idealism. In naturalism, teacher was only a facilitator. In idealism, teacher is having a very high place. Teacher is considered as a philosopher, friend, guide. These are the words which we usually use. Okay, so she is a friend, philosopher, and guide who is going to inspire students, serving as a role model for the students, and guiding the students for overall development. So exactly what we see in and around in all the schools and colleges here, that is what is the role of a teacher. A teacher has to inspire, a teacher has to be a role model, a teacher has to guide, she should be a friend, philosopher, and guide. Okay. So, is this philosophy good? Did you like this philosophy? There are a lot of merits which we should accept in idealism. Number one, they give more importance to the moral value, the spiritual value. They give importance to culture, and it gives importance to arts and literature. That is the aesthetic sense, arts and literature. Self realization, importance on the role of a teacher. That is something great which you find only in a philosophy like idealism. They give importance to reading, to learn from books. It is not that like naturalism, they were not like that. They said you go and discover. But idealism, they give importance to bookish knowledge. They give importance to spiritual values, eternal values, truth, goodness, and beauty, and the overall development. When a child is developing morally, physically, spiritually, intellectually, you find, wow, what a beautiful child, isn't it? Appreciating culture, appreciating truth, appreciating goodness, appreciating beauty, appreciating the universal mind, trying to walk with self realization, moving towards realization of the universal mind. Great. So these are the merits of idealism. But there are certain demerits of idealism. What are they? Too much emphasis on moral and spirituality. You find Everywhere they talk about mind and spirituality. Overemphasis on bookish knowledge. That is a criticism. Why so much the students have to study? Even in our curriculum, if you're going to see how many subjects students are studying, especially even in a school, say in class grade 10 or grade 12, how many subjects the students are expected to study? Overemphasis on bookish knowledge. Less importance to child is not given importance. Who is the important person? Teacher. Teacher is going to mold the child. And concepts like spirit, mind, body, soul, all those things are something very abstract which you cannot see. When I talk about I'm realizing myself, I'm realizing the universal mind, it is a concept which is very abstract, which cannot be explained in words. It can only be felt, it can only be realized or perceived. So all those things are abstract, which is considered as a demerit of idealism. So overemphasis on moral, spiritual, bookish knowledge, concepts like all these things are found to be very abstract in nature. And even in modern or in the current modern technological era, you find that modern concepts does not find a place in idealistic system of education. Like nowadays we have something called as e-learning, we have something called as tele-education, we have something called as what is it, you learn by what do you say that, okay, you try to learn by yourself, self-education, but all that technological aspect into idealism is not being explained. And see, it's not a doubt because this philosophy was developed ages and ages ago, and even now even now to some extent we are following that. But one demerit is this ICT, information communication technology, is not found to have a place in idealism. And another on demerit is very little freedom is given to child. In fact, I can say no freedom is given to child in idealism. So, to summarize and conclude, idealism is a philosophy. It's a very important question from exam point of view. Okay, this is it comes under the conventional or the traditional philosophies of education. So, what should a student remember when you are going to write an answer on idealism? Just close your eyes. Remember that idealism is ideal. Ideal means what? It's perfect. That is my way of explaining. But actually, ideal means it is to see. Okay, everything is perfect. That is called as idealism. So what does idealism believe in? It believes mainly in spiritual aspect. When spiritual aspect comes, automatically moral aspects come, automatically that cultural values will come. They give more importance to values, they give more importance to spiritual aspect, they give more importance to mind, less importance to what we see around like facts or materialistic world. They believe in creativity. They believe man is a spiritual being because man is a spiritual being, and that is what is making him different from other creations. They believe that the ultimate aim of education is to help the child to realize self realization, understanding what is my strength, understanding what is my weakness, and then to foster into a healthy personality where I am able to adjust very well with all of my surroundings, to realize the truth, the goodness, the beauty, the moral values, the eternal values of truth, goodness, and beauty. To realize that all these values are coming from above, it is coming from God Almighty. Okay, and my realization is realization of universal mind. To get along with God, to get along to that universal mind, they give more importance to values such as this culture. They believe that I should be proud of my culture, I should be aware of my culture, I should be able to enrich my culture and nourish my culture. What are these people teaching in the school? They teach everything. For moral development, they teach subjects. For intellectual development, they teach subjects. For physical development, what is the role of a teacher? Teacher has a great place in idealism. Teacher is a person who is going to guide a student. She is a friend, she is a philosopher, she is guide, she is going to be a role model, she is going to be an inspiration to her students. What are the methods of teaching? You can go by lecture, discussion, questioning, project method, imitation, kindergarten. All those things are different ways by which you can teach a child. What about discipline? They follow very strict discipline because they say that only a disciplined mind will be able to go to that eternal value of truth, goodness, and beauty. So it's a very beautiful philosophy in its own way, because a philosophy which talks a little bit higher level of concepts. It is not only learning from whatever is there in the physical world and then enjoying and dying. No, it's not that. It goes beyond. It talks about something at a higher level concept, that there is something called as realization, self-realization. There is something called as God Almighty. There is a supreme power, and everything was created through him, and we are going to ultimately end with him. That's something, a beautiful concept, but the demerits are, all these words are very abstract, and it cannot be understood by everybody. It cannot be tested objectively by everybody. Overemphasis on bookish knowledge, strict discipline, no freedom, all those things are the limitations of idealism. So to conclude, idealism, it stresses the central role of the ideal in the interpretation of experience. Perfection, goodness, beauty, truth. That is idealism. So I hope you have got at least a basic idea about what is idealism. Okay, and I would like to say that the values, most of the concepts are away from naturalism. Naturalism, people are at an extreme. They talk about science, they talk about problem solving, they believe physical universe is everything. Okay, everything is fact, no discipline, no curriculum. Okay, let the child learn by itself. Idealism, well nurtured child, taken care of. Okay, making sure that the child is disciplined in order to end up with a healthy personality. I pray and I hope that this video is going to be useful, especially for all students who are studying philosophies of education. Thanks a lot for all your support and for your encouragement. Thank you.